Okay, so we learned that go off the rails just means that you kind of go crazy and maybe you start to behave in an uncontrolled way. And yeah, imagine what would happen to a train if it really did go off the train tracks. It would just be havoc, it would just be crazy.
Yeah, and that's what's happening to his life. Everything's kind of gone in a different direction that it shouldn't go in and is making things crazy because he's found his neighbour's dog, and as we see, it has been stabbed with a garden fork. That's one of those big ones you use for digging up the grass and the earth. And the verb stab means to use a sharp tool or weapon to pierce the surface of something, and we generally use stab when we're talking about hurting or killing the thing you're stabbing. I mean, you could like stab a fruit to get some juice out, but generally we mean it in a violent way. For example, the criminal stabbed the man with a knife and stole his money and his phone. So yeah, this dog is a dead dog.
Yeah, and imagine for someone like Christopher with autism to discover that. I'm pretty sure it was not easy for him to understand. Next in the story it says, the neighbor Mrs. Shears calls the police and Christopher is a suspect. Okay, so the neighbor finds Christopher, Mrs. Shears, and she thinks, oh, you did it. That's right. So that's why he's a suspect. A suspect is basically a person believed to possibly be guilty of a crime. So, of course, we cannot be 100% sure that it was Christopher who did it. Like we read in the story, we know it's not him. But then a suspect is, we don't really know if he is guilty or not. So, for example, we can say the police checked the crime scene again to look for possible suspects.
Yeah, they don't have any real evidence yet, but they think, well, we also need to find there's evidence to show it wasn't you. So we need to prove it either way. Now, this gets awkward because when the policeman arrives, they want to talk to Christopher, and we see that upon being touched by the policeman, Christopher reacts and hits him. Now, this is related to his sort of autism spectrum disorder. A lot of people with those diseases don't really like being touched. They don't understand what it means or where it's going to lead. So he, instead of thinking the policeman just is trying to put his arm around me and talk to me and comfort me, he thinks, what's he doing? And he just hits him. So there we saw this grammar pattern. We've got something happens and then upon something else. So upon, and it's always followed by a V-I-N-G, so upon being touched. And this is the same as saying as soon as something happens. So upon something happening, as soon as something happens, they are the same. Now in that sentence, we also saw the verb to react. Christopher reacted by hitting the policeman. To react is to do something in response after someone else has done something first. So there's an action and a reaction if you use the nouns, or act, react if you use the verb. Here's an example sentence. When the baby feels hungry or uncomfortable, she reacts by crying.
All right, so it says he's let off with a warning and decides to investigate the dog's death himself, recording his progress in a book. Right.
So there's the mystery novel thing.
Exactly. So this is where the mystery comes in because he still wants to know why the dog died. Now, remember the policeman touched Christopher because, you know, he has autism. He doesn't really understand. Maybe it's just a friendly touch and he reacts in a really bad way, but luckily he's let off. Now, let off is just is a phrasal verb, and it means to just let someone go and not to punish someone because of what they did, or maybe not to punish someone for the crime they committed. So, yeah, it's considered, for example, if you hit a policeman, that is considered a crime sometimes.
Could be an actual crime, yeah.
Yeah, but the police probably knew about his situation and they decided, you know what, forget it, and they did not arrest Christopher. They just let him go.
Yeah, but they did give him a warning. And a warning is a statement, or it could even be an action, that tells you something bad will happen in the future. Or a warning could be someone will be punished if they continue to behave badly or do something again. For example, the mother gave her sons a warning after they started fighting in the back of the car. Said, you stop that, or I'm going to turn this car around and drive you home.
Or I'm going to throw you out of the car.
Yeah, throw you out of the car. Now, yeah, I mean, I have two brothers, and you try and get three of us in the back of a car when we were kids. always sort of fighting, and there's not really enough space for us. So my parents would have to give us a warning, like, no more of that, or we're not taking you on this vacation.
Ooh, but then I'm pretty sure you would behave nicely again.
For a while.
All right, so next in the story says, during the investigation, okay, remember Christopher is doing his own investigation, he learns that his mom had an affair with Mr. Shears, and they ran away together.
So that's the next door neighbor.
Neighbor's husband.
Neighbor's husband. So his mum ran off. She's not dead. She ran off with the neighbor's husband, leaving the neighbor there. Okay. Wow. Wow.
Let's take a look at the word investigation. Now, let's first understand what investigate means. Investigate is a verb, and it means you find out facts about something, maybe things about a crime or a mystery or an accident, and you can learn more about what happened. So, an investigation is the noun. It is the act of investigating something. It's the act of looking for facts and figuring out what happened. For example, we can say, the horrible fire is still under investigation.
So in this investigation, we get this big secret. Whoa. His mom, who he thinks was dead, isn't dead. She ran away with the neighbor, or the neighbor's husband. I mean, he's still the neighbor, but she ran away together with the neighbor. And to run away together, this means to go somewhere with someone you love so you can be together. Because you can't be together in the situation you're in right now. Think of someone like Romeo and Juliet. They can't be together because their families are fighting, so they run away together. And we often use this when, a man and a woman who aren't married to each other, but are married to other people, they have an affair and they might run away together because they can't stay in the situation they're in. So, wow, big secrets out there. Christopher suddenly, whoa. Mind blown.
I would be mind blown as well. He says Christopher realizes his dad has been lying to him all along. Oh my gosh. So all along, just basically here means all the time from the very beginning. So 2 years ago, his mom left, but then his dad lied to him. He said, oh, she died. And Christopher, imagine someone with his problem, he probably cannot take the...
He believes what he's told.
And he doesn't really understand how to accept this information as well.
Okay, and we see that his mum isn't dead. She lives in London.
Oh, it's not too far from Swindon.
It is not too far from Swindon. It's less than an hour on the train.
And then it says she's been writing letters, but Ed has kept them from him. So actually his mother wants to talk to him. Maybe she wanted to explain what happened, but Ed, his father, didn't show the letters to him at all.
But on the other hand, his dad didn't burn them or throw them away or tear them up. So maybe his dad on some level isn't quite ready to let this go, because we see that Christopher finds the letters and reads them. So that's how all this mystery comes out. He finds a bit about, okay, there was an affair, what happens, he's looking in his dad's room. All these letters from his mom to him.
And then after he reads all these letters, he confronts his father, who admits to everything, including killing Mrs. Shears' dog out of anger at her husband. Wow, so that's what happened to the dog. Basically, his dad was so angry. I mean, I can imagine his feelings.
Yeah, because your husband ran off with my wife.
So because his dad was so angry, he killed the dog out of anger. Now, what Christopher did was he confronted his dad. When you confront someone, it just means you talk to this person and you tell them to deal with this problem right away, or you deal with it very directly. And it's more of like, hey, I know what you did, and it's a lot of emotions when you confront people.
Yeah, and this, of course, is going to be very difficult for Christopher because of his autism spectrum disorder. He's always going to have a little bit of a problem understanding why people are doing what they're doing, understanding the language that they use, and having very strong direct ideas and behaviors about what he should do or what is right and so on. So he's found this out, he's confronted his dad, they've had a very angry scene, and we now see that, shocked, Christopher heads for London to find his mum. Now we can put an adjective at the start of a sentence like that, so shocked, surprised, amazed, something like that. Just remember that you've got to follow it with the subject, and the subject has got a link. So we can't say shocked, taking a train to London. That wouldn't make sense. So we go shocked and then we follow with Christopher. So we know that it's Christopher who is shocked. And we see that he heads for London. To head for somewhere means to depart from where you are and go either just in a particular direction or towards a particular place. I'm going to head for home, I'm going to head for school, it's the morning. This time he's going to head for London. Of course, he's too young to drive, he's only 15, but there are plenty of trains and buses that will get you from Swindon to London directly, pretty easily. You can't get lost on the way.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy to take the train there as well for him.
Yeah, it is. It's super easy. Okay, so that is where we're going to leave the end of the first part of the story. Christopher has had his world turned upside down by dead dogs, and his mum's really alive, and she's in London, and she's been there all this time. How is it all going to sort itself out? You will have to join us tomorrow to find out what happens in part 2 of the story. Right now, however, it's time to go to today's For You Chat question.